Let's do this. Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the CrisRenee Makes podcast. I am Crystal, and I'm coming to you from Kalamazoo, Michigan, where I live with my 2 cats. This podcast will be about all the things that I have been making, which is mainly knitting with a little bit of cross-stitch, quilting, and my artwork. You can find me on Instagram as CrisRenee Makes and on Ravelry as CrisRenee Knits. I am also the artist behind CrisRenee Art, where I sell my art prints and original artwork, and you can find information about my art at CrisReneeArt.com. You will find links to all of this information in the description bar down below, as well as show notes and links to all the things that I talk about in this episode. I plan this to be a bi-weekly podcast with an occasional bonus video filmed in between. So a little bit about my crafting journey. I have pretty much been making things my entire life, whether it was drawing stick figures in a notebook when I was a kid. I started cross-stitching when I was about 12 years old, and I kind of dabbled a little bit with knitting when I was in high school, but I didn't really get it. But I really got into it when I was in my early 20s. And so ever since then, I kind of been going on and off between cross-stitching and knitting, and with a little bit of artwork in between that. So pretty much I find myself that I've always been a crafter, and I always have to be doing something. And I've been thinking about podcasting for quite a while because I love to watch knitting podcasts, and I always feel like that, because I make things, that I have something to say and something to show. And about 6 months ago, I purchased a really nice DSLR camera, mainly to take pictures of my artwork and reference photos. So only thing I needed to do this podcast was the microphone and the software to edit the video. So I thought, well, what the heck? Let's just go with it. So we'll see where this goes, and if it crashes and burns, I'm not out a bunch of money, but I thought, what the heck? Let's give it a shot. Okay, let's start off by talking about finished makes. And to begin with, we'll talk about what I'm wearing. This is the Harrogate sweater by Amy Herzog that I modified to be cropped, and I shortened the neckline. And as you can see here, I cropped it at my natural waistline, and I also, what I did was I knit this band a little bit shorter than what the pattern calls for. This sweater was made with Berroco Ultra Alpaca in the Candy Floss mix. And this yarn was a deep stash. I purchased it in 2013 to make a different sweater, which I tried like 2 or 3 times and kept ripping it out. And because so much time had passed, it turned out that when I went to pick it up again, it would have been way too small, so I ripped it out again and repurposed the yarn for something else. Now, about the sweater is that it is super warm, which could be a good thing if it's cold out, and I could wear it outside without a coat on. But the problem is that I think it might be a little too warm, especially since I've been having hot flashes. So I think what I want to do is shorten the sleeves, because I think if I didn't have this covering my arm, it wouldn't feel so hot. And what inspired me that is Megan from the Pip and Pin podcast is currently running a make-along called Fix It and Forget It. So is about taking the things that you have finished and altering them or frogging them. And for the most part, I love this sweater. I love how it looks. I just don't like that it's so warm. So I think that if I shorten the sleeve, that would make it that much better. And the question is, I'm not quite sure how to go about doing that, because this sweater was knit from the cuffs were cast on from the cuff up to the sleeve. So in order to shorten it, it's not like I can knit it from the wrong direction. I'm thinking the best way to do it would be to figure out where I want to cut it off, bind it off, pick up a knit and then knit a cuff at that spot. And about the construction of the sweater, it was knit from the bottom up in pieces and seamed. And this is like only the second sweater that I have completed in like the last probably decade. I knit a couple of sweaters when I first started to knit, but I haven't knit any in like 10 years. So yeah, so I'm just kind of still learning about how I like to knit sweaters and what kind of fabrics I like to use and all that. So it's going to be kind of a learning process. But one thing I would say is I love the cabling on the front of the sweater. I think that it turned out really well. And now the sweater is like, even though I've turned the heat off, is like making me super, super hot. So I think I'm going to change my clothes, so I'll be back in a minute. Whew, that's a lot better. Man, I was really starting to die because it took me forever to get that through. But I'm still getting used to podcasting, and it feels really awkward. And I kept stumbling over my words, and then I just feel myself getting hotter and hotter because that sweater was like, here. All right. Let's talk about the second thing I finished knitting, and that is this. This is the Lock Hat by Tin Can Knits, and it features this really pretty lace pattern that goes all the way around the hat, and it was inspired, I think it was inspired by the Loch Ness Monster, or the Locks, because it was from their book called In the UK, which is a bunch of patterns that were inspired about things in the UK, and this was knit with Lorna's Laces Shepherd Sport in the pink blossom colorway, which is actually a discontinued color. So about this hat, I am a super tight knitter, and I knit this in what I thought was my size, but I did go up a needle size. The problem is that it still ended up super tight. As you can see, I kind of feel like it's a little bit short, and I feel like it's kind of squeezing my head. So I originally wanted to put a furry pom-pom in it, but I'm like, I need to sew a button to secure the pom-pom, and I'm like, if I stick a button on the inside of this, it's just going to be squeezing my head. So I'm thinking that I want to frog this and use the yarn to make fingerless mitts, because this color will go perfectly with the shawl that I'm currently working on that I'll show you when I go to make some progress. So this is probably going to be part of the Fix It and Forget It make along, and this is going to be my project that I frog. So it's a finished make, but it's not going to be finished for that much longer. Now let's talk about my makes in progress. The first one I will talk about is in this project bag that I made last year. And this is the Siren Mittens, or something like that. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you pronounce it, by Ellie of Skiing Deer Knits. And this is a colorwork traditional Norwegian mitten pattern. This is my first colorwork mitten that I've ever did, and it's kind of been a little love-hate relationship. One of the problems is I really screwed up the chart on this part, so it looks a little weird, and I've been having trouble with getting my tension right at the side right here, and I've had some jogging on the other side. And the other thing I did was that this part here, you're supposed to knit in a smaller needle, which what I'm knitting this in is my US 3 Chowgu circular needle. And the yarn that I am using was leftover yarn from a sweater that I had finished last year and a pair of mitts I had made for my sister. And the gray is Cloudborn Highland Sport, and this is a Wonderland yarn that I can't remember what exactly it's called, but it is in my project pages on Ravelry. The thing I think I'm going to do is I didn't actually technically knit a gauge swatch, and I do have enough yarn to technically knit 3 mittens. So what I'm going to do is use this mitten as practice, and then once I get it all the way done without the thumb, I probably will not put the thumb in because that just seems too much like work. I'm going to soak it and block it and check the gauge, and then, because what she does is you cast on the same amount of stitches, and then if you want a bigger size, you go up a needle size. So then I can see if I need to change my needle size or whatever, and then it'll be good practice on how to get my tension right and all that. So, and I think too that it's getting a little warm out, so I'm probably not going to need mittens this year, so this will probably be more useful once the fall comes around. But yeah, it'll also be good practice. So that's whip number 1. So now the second whip is also in a bag that I made. And this is the Meandering Shawl by Stephen West. And I knit this on the Cloudborn needle size, which is a US 7. And I think these are probably Addy Turbos. I'm pretty sure. Because most of they're either lace or turbos. I'm pretty sure these are turbos. But what this is a brioche pattern that is pretty simple, and that all you do is you do increases down the side that makes a zigzag pattern, and then and then what you do is you do increases down the center, which makes a zigzag pattern, and then on the sides to make it grow. And I love the rainbow colors of this yarn. And originally I was going to knit this shawl in the larger size, but I am at the point where once I finish this section, would be where you put the border in for the smaller size, and it's pretty large as it is, so I think I'm going to just finish it at this point and do the smaller size, because I think this will be big enough. And the yarn that I am using is this rainbow yarn is Manos del Uruguay, Algeria, in the Lacuro Floral colorway. And this pinky orange color is madelinetosh Twist Light in the Neon Peach colorway. And these yarns I got at Fancy Tiger Crafts when I was in Denver last year. And when I saw this rainbow yarn, wrong way, wrong side, it just spoke to me. I love bright colors, and I knew exactly when I saw this yarn, this is what this yarn wanted to be, and I love how it's coming out. But what is kind of making me want to frog this hat and use this yarn for mitts is I think it would go perfectly with this shawl, and it would be a perfect spring staple. It would be so bright and so cheery. Yes, I can't wait till they get done. Alright, now for the next make in progress, and it's in this sweater bag that I made with fabric I had in my stash. So this is the current sweater that I am working on, and it is the Midcoast sweater by Jennifer Steingass, and I am knitting it in the US 5 circular needles. I believe these are Chagu needles, and it is a top-down colorwork sweater. And I'm making this in sock yarn, and it's kind of interesting trying to do color work in sock yarn because it's not very sticky, but we'll see how it goes. But this is what I've got so far, if you can see that, because this is wanting to roll. And there goes the yarn. But the colorful yarn is this. I got this on sale at a local yarn store. I got this on sale at a local yarn store that was having a big sale because they were moving. And let's see if I can find the tag. And it is called Araucania Yarns Huasco Sock. Let's see if you can see that. And the color is Pavo Real. But I love the like purples and whites and greens in this yarn. And then so I got that, and then I was like, what am I going to do with it? And I thought it would make a good sweater, colorwork sweater, because I love how when you use variegated yarn with colorwork, how you never know like how it's going to come out. And then I got this. This is Cloudborn Merino Superwash Sock Twist to go with it, because I thought, well, sock and sock, but we'll see how it goes. I know that sock yarn is probably not the best thing to do color work with because it's not the stickiest, but I'm kind of hoping because the color work is only in the yoke, that it'll all work out. But I do like that this fabric is a lot lighter, so I think it'll breathe a little bit easier and not like make me want to rip it off because it's so hot, which will be perfect for spring. And I probably will shorten the sweater a little bit too because I love the look of crop sweaters and dresses. So yeah, so that is what I got so far on this sweater, which is really not very far, but I like how it's coming out so far. So yep. Alrighty. Now for my next thing, I have a couple of socks that I'm working on. And so, yeah, I have never actually knit a full pair of socks. I suffer from one sock syndrome, super bad. And I also have always had trouble with, I don't do Kitchener stitch very well, but I also tend to bind off and cast on really tightly. So both of these socks, I had knit past the heel, I was into the gusset, and the other one I just had a little bit of the leg, but they were both cast on way too tightly. And this sock, the gauge was too tight, so the whole sock was too tight. I found a YouTube video from of Knitting Natty, which I will link in the description bar down below, where what she does is she casts on her sock with two needles held on top of each other, which I'll kind of show here. So you just do your cast on like this, which makes it a lot looser. And when I did that, it made a huge difference. My cuff was so much more stretchier. It didn't feel like it was like a tourniquet trying to cut my circulation off. So, okay. So the first sock I will talk about is this, which is the Battle for Hogwarts sock by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast. And I really like how this is turning out. But this sock was the one that I had knitted all the way to the cuff, and I worked on it for like several hours during knit night a couple of weeks ago, and then I go to try it on and I could hardly get it on because the cuff was too tight and the gauge was too tight. So what I did is I went up to a US 2 needle. So I think what I'm going to have to do, because I'm super tight knitter, if there's a pattern that has any cabling or anything that pulls the stitches in, I'm going to probably need to go up to a 2. So then that's what I did, and so far this seems to be working out so much better. I think this is going to fit a lot better. So, but yeah, this is what I've got so far of that. And then my second sock, yarn. This yarn is Plymouth 100 Happy Feet, and I can't remember what the color is, but it is my project page, and I will put it in the show notes because I don't have the ball band anymore. I don't have the ball band anymore. And then my other sock that I'm working on this is like my easy sock project that I like to work on when I'm like need something mindless, when I'm just out and about. And this is the Hermione's Everyday Sock. And I'm knitting it with stupid nails trying to get on the way. Okay. And I'm knitting it with, this is what it looks like so far. And I used a contrasting color for the cuff and the heel, and I will use the same color for the toe. This cuff is, I think it's Cascade. It's a Cascade something. I didn't keep the ball band, but I did have it in my stash, so I have it in my project page. And I knit the heel flap and gusset in the call for pattern, and I am knitting it on US 1 needles, which this I tried on and it fits perfectly. The only thing is the leg is a little bit on the short side. It's not terrible, but I wouldn't have minded it to be a little bit longer, especially if I want to wear it with my boots. But you know, it'll be good practice. So next time I do this pattern, I know to make it longer. And then what I'm doing, which I got this idea from Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady podcast, is I put a stitch marker, if you can see there, and that represents 10 rounds, and then I kept track of it, so when I go to knit the second sock, I will just count the rounds instead of measuring it, and both legs will be exactly the same. And I'll do the same thing on the foot, so that I will end up with 2 socks of the same size, which I kind of had a problem with that, is I have a pair of socks that I knit as an afterthought heel, but I knit one from the toe up and one from the cuff down, and I think the cuff down is going to be too tight, and the foots are not the same size, and the toes don't look the same, so I'm thinking those are probably going to get frogged instead of putting the heel in. But okay, the yarn that I am using for this, the main yarn is Plymouth Yarns Happy Feet 100 Splash, and it's in the colorway Crayon. And I really like how the little colorful speckles are on this yarn. I think it's looking out really beautiful. And the thing I didn't realize is this is what the ball band looks like, or this is what the cake looks like. Is this is coming out, this like the main color here is reading more blue than white, and when I originally saw it I thought it was a white base, but this, I love how it's coming out. So who knows, maybe someday I will have a pair of knitted socks. Alright, and so that is all the knitting projects I've been working on. So now let's talk about a few of other. I have one other not knitting related makes in progress, and that is this cross stitch. This is a Heaven and Earth Designs. It's called All the Possibilities, and what it is, it's the Eevee with all the evolutions, and it kind of makes a rainbow, and it's really beautiful, but it is absolutely ginormous. So, and I'm knitting it and these like tiny little stitches, and this is probably, who knows if I'll ever get it done, but I love the colors, so this is something I kind of pick at every once in a while, and I kind of got the urge to work on it a couple nights ago, so I did a little bit of stitching on it, so I thought I would show it. I probably won't show this every episode because I don't do a ton of cross stitch, and for some reason, when I do cross stitch, I like the really long, complicated things that you don't usually see a lot of progress, but the finished product is going to be absolutely gorgeous. So that's that. And that is all I have for Make Some Progress. Okay, now let's talk about acquisitions. This is something I probably won't do every episode because I'm trying to control the things that I spend money on. Plus, I'm going to be doing the West Michigan Yarn Quest in a couple of months, so I'm kind of saving my money so that I can buy all of the yarn then. So when that comes around, I'll probably have a huge haul to show, but for now, I did get a few things. So to start with, I love furry pom-poms. I don't knit a lot of hats, but these just bring me life. So I was out shopping a couple weeks ago, and I found this one. I found it at Hobby Lobby, and I love this color, this baby pink. And these were super affordable, and they all have the elastic. I don't know if you can see that tie, which I don't mind if you just sew a button on the inside of your hat and sew that on. And then these two I got from Joann. They're the buttercream pom-poms, and I love that hot pink color. And it has, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of black tipping on it. But that will look gorgeous. And then this like really pretty mauve color. And I think that this has a little bit of like maroon tipping on it too. So hopefully that will inspire me to make more hats so I can put pom-poms on them. And hopefully I can get it down to make it a hat that fits right. So here's hoping. And then I did get the most recent issue of Pom Pom magazine, and this sweater is gorgeous. I love it. And the model, she is just beautiful. I have never gotten Pom Pom magazine before, but this makes me want to subscribe. And I am definitely I think I'm going to look for the yarn to make this sweater when I go to the Yarn Quest, because I just love it so much. And it's the perfect airy spring sweater, and it's knit. How it is knit is these stripes here. Let's see if I can find a picture on the inside. Yeah. These stripes are done with mohair, and it's super light. And then you have like a lace pattern that's done in fingering yarn. But I hope that, especially for something my size, that it doesn't take forever. And there is also a really, really good article that they did an interview with Jacqueline Cizak about body positivity, especially in the knitwear community, and that's something that I am all for. So if you can get your hands on this, I highly recommend it because the patterns in here are gorgeous. All right, and then the next book that I got was something that everybody has probably seen. I love this book. There is a lot of great patterns in here. Let's see, the first thing I think I want to make is this. I don't have ever made toys before, but I love Hedwig in this. Ooh, this just makes me want to do it. And I also really love these mittens are great. So it's another colorwork mitten, but it says Aspecto Patronus across the hands. Oh, it's great. But there's also a sweater in here that I absolutely love, and it's probably going to be the first sweater pattern I do in this book, and it is called the Owl Post Pullover. It's this one right here, because I love cables, and I kind of like that color too. The only thing is there is a, like you see right here, this thing right here, it's under the thing. I like color work, but I don't think I would do something that you can't really see, so I'm not so sure about that part of it. But I am definitely going to be knitting Hedwig as the first pattern, and I already have the yarn and the eyes to do it with. So this is probably going to be a cast on that I start soon. And this is the I Love This Cotton from Hobby Lobby, and then it called for a speckly cotton yarn for her wings, and I had a heck of a time finding it, and then I found this on Amazon. The thing is, I don't need this. I was wondering why this was like $11 for cotton yarn that usually isn't that expensive, and then it came and it was in this huge ball. So I'm thinking what I might do with the rest of this is make some like washcloths with it, which I do like to do, and I don't have any cotton yarn to do that. So that's probably what I will do. And then the next thing I got is in Nat of Knitting Nat's one of her podcasts, she was talking about these circular stitch holders. You see that? And these are great because they're kind of like a circular needle, but what you do is you feed your stitches through the cable, and then you stick it in through here, and then you just tighten it, and you got yourself a stitch holder that's really flexible, which is a lot better than those like baby diaper safety pin looking ones that are super stiff, which I used to use those a lot when I would make mittens and fingerless mittens, and they are kind of a pain. But the reason why I got two is because these will be great for when you knit top down sweaters and you split for the sleeves, so you can put the sleeves on these instead of waist yarn, which I had a sweater that I knit. It was seamless in the round top up, and you had to put the whole body on waist yarn, and it was a pain in the butt to get it off that. And they do actually sell these so this is the 9 to 16 inches. They do sell a larger one that you could do that to fit your entire body on it, and you could also, it may be also big enough if you wanted to put it on waist yarn and try it on, so you don't lose your stitches. So I think these are going to be great. And then the next thing I got was when I was at Hobby Lobby, they now sell needle minders, and these are so cute. And they come with these cute little fabric. They come with these cute little fabric magnets. So yeah, I have tried to make needle minders. The problem is the first kind of magnets I got, they weren't the right ones, and they left marks on my fabric. And the second ones I got were not the right shape, and they were way too strong. They're so strong that my dad's a diabetic on an insulin pump, and he can't be near the magnet because it'll mess with his pump. So yeah, I don't know about that, but I think these will be good. And then my last acquisition is actually, so I said that I'm going to be doing the West Michigan Yarn Quest, and when you do that, you get this cute little bracelet and this like little stitch marker that says the West Michigan Yarn Quest 2020 on it. So this will be great. Cut. And now for sharing the love. In each episode, I will talk about some of the knitting podcasts that I really enjoy watching. And since this is my first episode, I want to talk about some of the podcasters that I've come across that have started their podcasting journey, and I wanted to spread the love and give attention to them. And the first one I want to talk about is Stitch Create Love. She is mainly a sewist, and she does do a little knitting, and she's out of the UK. And I really like her personality, and just everything about it is really great. And she actually teaches sewing, so she's more knowledgeable in that area, which is great for me because I do like to sew, but that is not my strong suit. So yeah, I've been really enjoying her episodes that she has posted so far. And the next one I want to talk about is the Quiet Corner podcast. And she is out of Canada, and she just has a really soothing voice, and she's a beautiful knitter. So yeah, she has one episode up, and it's doing really well, and I just really, really enjoyed that. And the last podcast I want to talk about is the Ruby and Rose's podcast. And this one really took me by surprise. This girl is very talented, and she dyes her own yarn, but the thing that really gets me is she's only 16 years old, but she is so mature for her age, and I never thought I would enjoy watching a 16-year-old being as old as I am, but it's just so enjoyable. And you will find links to all of the channels that I had talked about, and in this sharing the love, as well as throughout the episode, in the show notes in the description bar down below. All I have for today. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!